from
So
his
we'll
seat.
just go that way.
Okay.
If anything, I'll just go like this. Turn the mic that way.
You honestly probably could.
I feel like more at home with
Like,
missing
bring
two
it
nails.
closer.
It is supposed to be on the bottom one.
Because it
You're
goes
right,
along.
Tyler. There's a bottom and top
Gonna
number.
record it.
Oh,
Oh, the move because
The
it's
top
a
one is
mic.
number symbols over his ass.
If you're a little bit
Seems
quick
like
to go in the
oh,
bus,
I saw steam.
break
Like,
the line, we get
the
to
spirit is here, you guys.
fix it there.
He's hazing it. He's giving us some haze. Yeah.
Usually fine.
Yeah.
Score stays at 110. It's a pretty good click.
Cool. We will be live shortly.
What shortly?
Is he telling
Go
the
ahead, just watch for them.
internet stuff?
Few seconds. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
It's all happening.
Go team.
Save some lives. If
Everybody
anybody
watches.
watches.
You hate it.
This is like that one scene in Avengers, you know? Oh, it's so good.
Don't start crying. We don't got time for this. Just get my cat.
favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your families, and your children, and their children, and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May His presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, 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 He is for you. Amen, amen. Children, may His presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in the coming and the going, and you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, He is for you, He is for you. He is for you, He is for you, He is for you, He is for you, He is
Well, good morning, Casas. It is so good to be with you, and I say that meaningfully today and also uniquely today. There's been so much adaptation over the course of this morning and so much just trial and error with power turning on and off at the church and the internet going down and trying to rally and overcome. And I think there's something so beautiful about the way that this has all actually worked out. It's when you strip away all the complexity and all the other stuff that you just have the honesty of the fact that we get to be here together and that it's Easter. So happy Easter. And friends, I think we need a little bit of Easter right now. I keep saying this, but it's true. There's been so much out there as far as like it's a tragedy that you know this is happening over Easter, but I'm thankful for it today. And rather than talk about what isn't happening or talk about what maybe isn't working, I just want to talk with you all about what I am so thankful for. I am so thankful for the many ways that you all continue to be a church wherever you're gathered, wherever you find yourself. I am so thankful for the way that our church staff have continued to rise to the occasion to love people right where they are, because you guys matter, because this community matters, and because we want to meet people in the midst of this crisis and in the midst of their homes and in the midst of their tensions and in the midst of their joys, because friends, there's good and beautiful things that are happening now too. And I am so thankful for the way that so many of you have continued to give and sustain your church. and to be a part of all of this and to make good things continue to happen. I'm proud. And I mean that as sincerely as I am really proud to be a part of Casas Church and to be here with you all today. It's a beautiful thing. And so at this moment, if you're new with us, welcome. If it's your first time joining us for a service, welcome. It is awesome to have you. And also, I hope that today's not your last moment with us. Before COVID ever happened, there was a series that we were working on. It's called Tether. And the idea behind this series was that, so often in life it feels like we're untethered. So often in life it can feel like we're adrift. And then COVID happened, where so many of our lives came to a screeching halt in some ways, or crazy adaptation in another. And there's this weird thing. I just think God's really good in having this idea already kind of out there and planted and moving, where I think we need tether now more than ever. Right? So many of us, whether it was our jobs and the workplaces we went to that tethered us to a sense of meaning and purpose in our life, or the people that we were physically present with, or some of the actions and the things that we were able to do outside of our homes before. There was so much of that connected us. And even now, I think that's so important, that we need that. And so over the next 3 weeks, post-Easter, right? So next Sunday, we're also going to keep working through that. We're going to have that series, and I want you to join us. I do. I want you to continue to be a part of it. And not just because I want as many people to be a part of the Tether series. I just think God's doing something really good in that, and there's an opportunity for us right here and right now to find out that just because everything's changed, that we're still tethered to a community, that we're still tethered to a deep purpose from God, that life can grow in us right where we're planted even right now, and that we're tethered to the love of Christ. Isn't that what we're here celebrating today? That he is risen, that he has conquered the grave. Friends, the Easter story proudly proclaims over each and every one of us that the story isn't over. And so wherever you are, I hope that you hear that today. The story isn't over. Your story's not over. If death can be conquered, then even here and even now, that's a beautiful thing for us. And so in just a moment, Glenn is going to kick us off or continue on here speaking today. But I wanted to pause and just say to each and every one of us, this would be a moment where we normally take an offering. And so at this moment in time, I want to encourage you to continue to do that, to give and to be a part of that. And so if you're in your homes, trying to remember off the top of my head, I don't have a screen or a reminder in front of me, you can do it one of 3 ways. You can text 77977, the word Casas, to that number. You can give via text. You can write a check and send that in, mail it in, or you can go to our website and utilize online like PushPay, which we have there. And so there's 3 different ways, trying to make it as easy as possible for people to continue to give, to continue to connect in this moment. And good and beautiful things are happening. Oh, and one more thing. And I know I'm taking a long time, but one more thing, because this is really exciting. There's a ministry response that's been happening in our church that I want you to know about. There are so many people that right now are even trying to volunteer to sew masks and make those for medical workers in need. And we're trying to get behind and program and systematize that to get that out to people. We're trying to develop a relationship with Ore Valley Hospital, begin partnering and loving those people, because man, if you are a medical worker, we are so thankful for the work that you are doing, and we want to support you, and we want you to know that you are loved and that you are not alone. This Tuesday we're going to have a drive-by food drop-off for ICS, which is a really beautiful thing. These are just a few of the things that are going on. There's so much happening. Friends, it's so good to know that as a church, we continue to love our community forward. So I want to turn it over to Glenn, but it's Easter. And so I'd love to take a moment to just pray a prayer of blessing over each and every one of you who are gathered here with us today. If you're new with us, all of you, everyone. And so if you would, in your homes with me now, would you bow your heads and let's pray. God, we thank you for Jesus. We thank you for the cross. We thank you for the resurrection. We thank you that sin has been slain, that death has been conquered, and that no story is over until you say it's over, God. And so we trust that today and lift that up. I lift up every person who's watching and part of this service in their own homes even right now. And I ask that your peace be upon them, Lord. I don't know what they're facing. I don't know what each and every person is walking through, but I know there's a lot of complexity out there. So will you meet us in the midst of it? Will each person sense your presence, Lord? We ask for that. We pray your comfort and your peace. Lord, for those that are struggling financially, we pray that they would find their rest in you. For those that are struggling with health, we pray your healing, Lord, and your comfort. For those that are fatigued, Lord, for the essential workers that are still showing up and making things happen in amazing ways and loving people forward, I pray for resiliency in their spirit. I pray for protection over their families, and I pray for their health, Lord, and their wellness. And for us all, unite us this morning together in love. Unite us today in the power of the resurrection. And I pray for each and every one of us that you would raise something to life. Resurrection isn't over, it's happening still. We love you, we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And happy Easter. And what an Easter it has been, hasn't it? Like, it's even the space we're in right now is just kind of reflective of all that we've been in. I think, Mac, just not too long ago, and it hit me this morning that like March was like one of the longest years I have been in a long time. And all of a sudden, it's like we just got to April, and yet it's like we're halfway through April. And it's like we're in this blurry space that is so strange. And as I was thinking and processing about that more this past week, and thinking about that space, I started thinking about just like putting myself in my own shoes like 5 weeks ago. Like just 5 weeks ago, what was I thinking about? And what did I see coming forward into this spring? And as I processed that, it's amazing how much has changed. Like 5 weeks ago, one of the things that I know I was looking forward to and my family was looking forward to is going to my son's graduation. He graduates from college this year, and both of his grandfathers were going to be there and family, and we were going to come together and just have this chance to celebrate his graduation. And of course, like that all changed in the blink of an eye, didn't it? And I mean, he's going to graduate, and I am so proud of him. Like he's going to graduate with a 4.0. Like, did not get that from me, but it's like he's going to graduate, but he's not going to have that graduation because all of this just changed. It's kind of like a storm that just rolls through, and in a matter of minutes or moments, it just changes the whole entire landscape. And there's something that all of us have faced in this that has just, it's been like that storm front that has rolled through, and it's changed the whole landscape that we're in. It's like we're in this space where it's blurry and a little scary, and we're not sure what to do with all of it. And I was just wondering this for you as well. Like, take a minute. Think back just 5 weeks ago. Like, think about where you were 5 weeks ago and what you were seeing in front of you. You know, 5 weeks ago, some of you were probably excited about like March Madness, and like that's gone away. 5 weeks ago, you could have walked into a store and, I don't know, gone down the aisle and just like bought toilet paper if you wanted. Like that was a thing 5 weeks ago. You could do that. And now it's like things just continue to change in all of this. You know, 5 weeks ago, I looked this up. There was one case of the coronavirus, one known case of the coronavirus in Pima County. In New York, New York City, there was only 25 cases. And when I looked at it this morning, it's like almost approaching 100,000 cases. And it's like we're in this space where our entire world has changed. And so, like, how has your world changed in just the last 5 weeks? Because you probably have found yourself in this strange space that's filled with unknowns, that's filled with some uncertainties, that's filled with some things that are scary. And there's so much of this that's like hard to know how to move forward. I was in a Zoom meeting this past week. In fact, I've been in a lot of Zoom meetings. I didn't know what a Zoom meeting was 5 weeks ago, but suddenly I'm in tons of them. And there was one in particular where I was in a Zoom meeting with a group of probably 40, I don't know, maybe 50 pastors from all over the state of Arizona, and just grappling with everything that's going on. And the subject came up about Easter because Easter was coming up, and you could tell so many of them were lamenting that as we're coming to Easter, that like all the plans that people had been putting together, that churches were putting together, like couldn't happen. And there was this lamenting and even making plans for like, maybe there's something big that they could do in August or something for Easter. And part of the lament was, it's like there's this kind of tragedy that in the middle of this pandemic, of all the times, it would land right over the top of Easter. And it struck me a little funny, just listening to it all. And then I found myself in another meeting with a number of our staff and pastors and just examining like how would we shift and what would we do to make Easter happen. And there was like this totally different approach and mindset that came to it that just like in a way it lifted me up. It kind of inspired me for what today is really all about. And instead of lamenting this idea that Easter landed in the middle of a pandemic that has thwarted our plans and the beautiful things that we would plan, it was a mindset that looked at this and said, in the middle of a world that is hurting, in the middle of a whole world sitting in this unknown space, there couldn't be anything more beautiful than the picture of Easter that could anchor people in this world in the midst of a pandemic. And that all of a sudden, it became this very different kind of mindset in this. And so thinking about Easter and all of this, I think the thing that I would want you to know, and as we look at this, you know, the message of Easter, like it could not be more timely than for a time such as this. Like it is the message that we need most. And so I want to just like talk a little bit through that, the message and the story of Easter. You know, of course, it kind of starts off with this idea of Palm Sunday. And you know, when you read about Palm Sunday in the Bible, people are excited and there's all this enthusiasm and his followers are there. The disciples know that something big is going to happen. But of course, as that week unwinds, you get to Good Friday. And by the time you get to Good Friday, Jesus has been arrested. By the time you get to Good Friday, he has been arrested, he has been convicted, he has been mocked, he has been beaten. And he's crucified. And he dies on this cross. And you can just feel like that storm front that just comes in and all of his followers, like this is not the thing that they thought was going to happen. And Friday is this like dark moment. I want to read to you a passage that describes how Friday ends in this. And this is out of the Gospel of Matthew. And this comes to the very end. Jesus has died. They've taken his body off of the cross. And there's a man by the name of Joseph of Arimathea who's going to take his body. And it says this: Joseph took the body, wrapped it in clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut from the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance of the tomb and went away. And catch this: Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. And that's how Friday ends. Like Jesus dies. And Friday ends with these two ladies that loved and adored Jesus. They had followed him. And he is put in a tomb. And the stone is rolled in front of it. And you can just kind of picture their dismay as they sit there across from the entrance to that tomb. And that's how Friday ends. And you know, there's something about us in our modern world that when we think of the Easter story and we look at Good Friday and we celebrate that Jesus was willing to make this sacrifice. But there's a part of us that always wants to jump to Sunday, isn't there? Like, we just want to get to the resurrection. Like we want to get to Sunday. And no one ever talks about Saturday much. But you know, the reality is Mary Magdalene and Mary and Peter and the other disciples and all of these other followers, Friday ends and they wake up Saturday morning and the stone is still in front of the tomb. They wake up Saturday morning and there's no resurrection. They are in this strange place. And I think about that. I think about the disciples. You know, 3 years earlier, Jesus challenged them to follow him. 3 years earlier, he said, "Follow me." And they stepped up and they did. And for 3 years, they faced mobs. They weathered incredible storms. They endured hunger and ridicule and difficult times. But for 3 years, through each of those things, there was something that they had. They had Jesus. Like they had Jesus. And they built a life around that. Do you think about that? For 3 years, like they'd given up their careers, they'd given up their plans, and for 3 years, they built this kind of magnificent life of every morning, we get up and we just follow Jesus. Good Friday hits, and the life that they built for 3 years is gone. Like a storm front that just rolled through and changed the entire environment. And I'm just wondering if there are some of you that are watching this right now, and somewhere in the last 5 weeks, a storm front rolled through. And the life that you built, the future that you saw, it's like you don't know where it's going. I know some of you, you walked in and you had a job one day and the next day you didn't. Some of you, maybe you've struggled in your marriage and not too long ago, you struggled through a divorce. And now you're sitting here and it's like something about just coming off of the divorce and now being in this place of social isolating. It's like more isolating than you've ever experienced in your life. You may even be thinking, you know, even given some of the struggles we had in our marriage, I know we would have navigated this, and even though there would have been struggles and we would have been on each other's nerves, like we would have had each other to go through this with. And you don't even have that now. And others of you, I'm sure that like it's the opposite. Like suddenly, like you've got adult kids that had to move back into the house, and the house is full. And instead of people going their own way to school or work every day, everyone is doing school and work from home. And maybe at first it was like kind of like this is kind of fun, and we're here and together, and you know my spouse is with me. And now your spouse is with you, and like you're getting on each other's nerves, and it's like you've never navigated anything like this in your life, because you're in that space that's after Friday, and that space after Friday is such a weird space, right? Sunday's not here yet. And yet you're in that space of the unknown and what's happened. And you know, as I processed this a little this week, one of the things that hit me about this is, why didn't Jesus just come back on Saturday, right? Like I think he could have if he wanted. Like he's God. And there's a part of me that just thinks that would have been such a great idea. I think about those two ladies sitting across from that tomb, and I think about the heartache. I think about the doubt that must have gone through their minds. You read stories of some of the disciples, and they had to have lost hope. Some of them, it's like they just drift back into some life and semblance of what they had before, because hope is gone. And if Jesus would have come on Saturday, they wouldn't have had to have gone through all of that. Here's what I think, having processed this, and I think living in this space these last 4 or 5 weeks, it makes me think about the Easter story in a whole new way. I wonder if it has you thinking about the Easter story in a whole new way. Because I think about that space between Friday and Saturday. And you know, there's something about that I think when Jesus waited till Sunday, I think it's because he had more in mind than just Mary Magdalene and Mary and the disciples and his followers. I think he had you in mind. And I think he had me in mind. I think he had a world of people that he knew were going to come after Mary and Peter and all the other disciples. He knew that there was going to be a world of people that were going to follow. And they too would find themselves stuck in a Saturday, in a world that got turned upside down. And because he could wait till Sunday and show that there was resurrection for everyone that was stuck in that first Saturday, you know what that means? That if you or me, if we find ourselves on the other side of Friday, stuck in a Saturday where the world has come apart and we've lost our bearings, that the resurrection of Jesus Christ is for us too. Like the thing that all of us need to know most is that the resurrection is coming, that Sunday is coming, and it's coming for you, and it's coming for me. The Easter story is like this beautiful reminder that the story isn't over in your life. That just because of what's happened in the world right now, there's still something beautiful for you that is coming. There is something beautiful for this world that already came that first Easter. And it is that Jesus came and he rose from the dead, right? In fact, I want to read to you another passage because we get past Saturday. And again, this is found in Matthew I'm going to look at the beginning of chapter 28. And this is where Sunday begins to unfold. It says this: after the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, this is Sunday, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb, right? Because they've got, like, what else are they going to do? And so they go back to the tomb in that place. And when they do, like, this is when the story becomes magnificent. This is when the story begins to unfold. There's this angel that comes and appears to them. And I want you to catch what this angel says. And it says this, you drop down a few verses. It says, the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here." And here it is. "He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him." And so, that's exactly what they do. And there's this beautiful call to this. I love that he doesn't just say, Jesus is, you're going to get to see Jesus because you're the one that came in and was looking for him. He actually says, there's those other disciples, those other followers, and they've lost hope. They're struggling. They're scattered all over the place. You go and find them, and you tell them too that Jesus has risen from the dead. And it is this beautiful picture of resurrection for everyone in this. It is resurrection for those of you that find yourself stuck in just a kind of loneliness that wants to overwhelm you. It is resurrection for those of you who have struggled with a spiritual journey your whole lives. And maybe now you just feel like more than ever, like a spiritual life is not something for you. It is resurrection for those of you that have lost hope, because hope can be resurrected in all of this. So if you find yourself stuck in that place of uncertainty, like the thing that we want you to know, and it is the reason we're in this home, the thing that we would want you to know this Easter, especially given what is happening in our world, it is, and can I tell you this? It is the reason I watched a number of people throw equipment in the back of trucks. Why there was a meeting at 10 minutes to go, and the power goes out, and everything just says, this doesn't work. There was this spirit that came that was just like, there is not going to be anything that is going to keep us from telling people and letting you know that the resurrection of Jesus Christ is coming and has come, and his resurrection is for you. It is why we're here in a living room with things strewn all over the place. It is for you, friends, and for those of you who need it the most. And so I want to just speak to like two groups of people here just quickly. First, it's to this group. Some of you, it's like you don't know that Sunday is coming. There's never been that moment where you have actually trusted your life in this beautiful, unique way. You know, the earliest followers of Jesus Christ, when you read through the New Testament, they never looked at the resurrection of Jesus Christ as like a proof text of his power. They never looked at it as just being, wow, Jesus did this amazing thing, overcoming death so that he could prove how powerful he was. I want you to get this. Those earliest followers of Jesus looked at the resurrection of Jesus Christ as something that was for them. They looked at it and understood that when Jesus rose from the dead, he was inviting them to experience resurrection in their own lives. That is what lit them up. And if you have never trusted your life to Christ, the resurrection is for you. It is not just some fancy parlor trick that Jesus did. It's not something that he did to just prove that he was God or to prove how powerful he was. He did it because he knows that all of us get stuck in Saturdays and we need Sunday. We need that resurrection. So I'm going to just do something real quickly here. If you've never trusted Christ to resurrect your spiritual life, to find hope and salvation and relationship for all eternity with Jesus, I want to invite you to do that right now. And I'm not using magic words. I'm just going to pray through the simplest prayer right now of inviting Jesus and his resurrection into your heart and your life. So if you want to do that right now, I'm going to ask you you can bow your heads, you can close your eyes, you can leave your eyes open, but just pray this prayer with me right now. Jesus, I just come before you right now, and I want to experience your resurrection in my life. I want to become your follower, and I want to experience a relationship with you for all eternity, as one who will come to know you more and more. Amen. And you know, those of you who prayed that prayer with me for the first time, it's a beginning. You've just anchored your spirit and your heart and your soul to something that is absolutely magnificent, that anchors your soul to something that will carry you forward in ways you've never expected. But there's a second group that I want to talk to here for just a moment, and that's those of you who maybe at some point in your life you became a follower of Christ. You prayed some prayer like that was similar, or you trusted Christ in your life, but you sit here this morning in the midst of this weird space that we're in, and there's something about the pain or the struggle of all of this, and it's like you forgot that resurrection is coming. And what I want to challenge you with is use this morning, use Easter in the midst of this pandemic to actually anchor your heart and your soul back to that beautiful thing that will carry you forward out of the Saturday that you're in and back into a Sunday. Maybe take some time this afternoon and pray about it or do something with it. And I want to do something else. I want to invite you to be a part of a conversation. If you're struggling to find hope, I want to just do something really unique. This Tuesday evening sometime, I'm going to sit down with a good friend of mine who is a person that I trust immensely in moments where I struggle to lose hope. Her name's Annette. She's a fantastic counselor. And her and I are just going to have this conversation that is simply about this. Loneliness, depression, and finding hope. And we're just going to have a live discussion. And if you want to find out about how to be a part of that, just go to our website. We'll put some information up there for the exact time and how to join that and be a part of that. And I want to just invite you to be a part of that as well. And those of you that maybe prayed that prayer with me a little while ago, if you would like to have a moment to just ask some questions about that. Maybe you didn't pray that prayer with me, but you're like, man, I don't know if I've done that. And I'd like to know more about that, understand that. We're actually going to go live again right after this service. And we're going to text. And if you want to be a part of that, in fact, if you want to just hand that to me, you can just do that right now. Because we're improvising right now. I'm going to hold this. You can text Easter to that number right there. And I'm just going to hold this for a moment because I've never done this before. This way, right here, down.
Just in front of the mic.
Okay, right there. And what I'm going to do is just, again, we're just going to go live, and I'm going to invite some of our pastors. I think Seth Crimer Kelly is going to be there, and I'd love to just share a few things with those of you who made that decision or have questions about it. And of course, we're going to have the food drive that's coming up. I want to invite you to be a part of that. And before we go, are we going to have the song? Let's have the song. We're not going to close with cue cards and me talking. But let me just say this. Resurrection is for you. And as you think about this next song, of which honestly I just forgot the name of, but I want you to just spend some time in worshiping God who has resurrection for you. And then I'll come and just close us out in prayer.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I called to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Oh, hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you are my living hope.
So, in all my years of ministry, I have never experienced an Easter as beautiful or as wonderful as this. There is not even a close second place, because there has never been a time that I've ever been alive that we need the message of Easter more than we do now. And it is such a joy to have had all of you that have joined us and have been a part of this. And again, I want to remind us of a couple of things here before I pray and close. One, if you do have questions about what it means to become a follower of Christ, or if you prayed that prayer with me, I want to encourage you. Pull out your phone and text Easter to the number, and I'm going to give you the number here real quickly, 520-447-3970, because we're going to go live just with another conversation with some other pastors, and there are some other things that I so want to just share with you and celebrate with you and encourage you in. And as we continue to navigate forward in this incredibly unique time in our, not just our country, but in the world, I want to encourage all of you. There is this thing that we get to do as the church, and that is to take a heart of care to those who need it the very most. And so we're going to be doing this drive-through food drive. I'm sure many of you have seen the news and have watched all of the food lines and the number of people that are needing food right now more than ever. And one of the things that we can do is to make sure that ICS and the food pantries here have all the food that they need. And then lastly, if you want to be a part of that conversation that I'm going to be having with Annette this Tuesday, I want to invite you just to be a part of that. And we're going to talk about loneliness, depression, and how to find hope even in times like this. Go to our website and we'll have more information on the time and how you can connect into that. Let me pray.